A warning before you listen.
What you are about to hear is not meant for children, nor for the faint of heart. This is an unfiltered retelling of ancient myths, told as they were born, raw, violent, unsoftened. Expect scenes of brutality, curses that linger, betrayals that reshape fate, and a hunger for power that shows no mercy. These myths were never meant to lull children to sleep. They were forged in blood, shadow, and fire. So ask yourself, are you ready to hear them as they were first told? Sources and references can be found in the episode description.
Chapter 2. From the Chaos Epic, Gaia and Uranus, from chaos to tyranny. The birth of Gaia, the body that said no. Birth was not a tale of light. It wasn't a blooming nor a moment of grace. It was rupture, a violent tremor in the side of silence, a scream with no throat, tearing through the heart of nothingness like a womb torn by a rebellious fist. Gaia wasn't born like mothers are born. She was torn out. A sticky rebellion, a desire scratching at the skin of meaninglessness, quivering like forbidden lust in a body never allowed to love. She did not come as a woman, but as a woman the cosmos had tried to forget and failed. She wasn't summoned by the will of the universe, but forced herself into being because she refused not to be. She was the first presence of a body that wanted to feel, not moaning from pain, but from the terrifying clarity of existing. Gaia didn't bloom like a flower. She split open like a wound in the ribs of the cosmos, from which spilled the first thing that dared say, "I am." She trembled. There was no heart, but there was shuddering. No sweat, but warmth rising like breath. She was enacting the first tremor of a feminine longing, untouched, but choosing to awaken anyway. No one was watching from above. She didn't care. She stretched, with no map, no boundary. Every pulse in her forming body was an act of war against the void. Every breast, every curve, every fold along her hip was physical defiance, as if her womanhood declared, "I will not be passage, I will be terrain." She was not yet a mother, but she longed to be filled, not with desire, but with something that could finally show her the difference between inside and outside, between touch and devouring, between being seeded and being invaded. She wanted to be seen, not with eyes, but with ache, to be approached, not as a god, but as a craving without a home. She rose from beneath absence like flame drawn out of dampness, and she was soaked, not with water but with pain, dripping from every cell in her becoming. Gaia, as if practicing the first act of existential self-pleasure. She touched her own edges, searched for herself like a virgin groping for joy in the dark. She gasped without voice, contracted without hand, and waited, not knowing what she waited for. She was forming slowly, in silent moans, in a choke that pulled her from the ends of chaos, etching the first map of a woman who refused to be touched unless she chose. Each heartbeat drew borders. She now had hips, contours. She began to understand what it meant to have an above and below, to have a chest not meant to cradle but to challenge, and a voice deep inside whispered, "I will not go back to nothingness, even if the sky crushes me." She stiffened, not in death but in divine defiance, a goddess incarnating into a body that refused to obey, refused to submit, refused to be told, "This is how you were made." Gaia wasn't shaped to be a vessel, but to be the first mixture of ache and lust, of yearning and blood, of femininity left unsatisfied and thirst unsure of what it craves. The first thing she ever wanted wasn't a child, nor a star, nor a prayer, but a ceiling. Gaia, the one who rose from the depths, looked upward and said, "I don't want to simply stretch outward. I want to be touched, held, confronted." But she didn't know that the first to come would not embrace her, but strangle her. Gaia was the first earth, but she wasn't soil. She was living flesh, heated spirit, a womb trembling alone in the void, waiting for the first invasion, not to be complete, but to be tested. And in that moment, when a woman reaches the height of her hunger and no one feeds her, the earth becomes ready, not for life, but for myth. Gaia never waited for love. She needed to be touched, as if calling out to the coming sky, "Come, but don't forget, I was born without you. I trembled alone, in a night with no stars, in a void with no gasp. I am not a field to be sown. I am a body that resists being just a harvest." And that was how the myth began. A female body stretching through nothingness, shaking, not because it had been fulfilled, but because it finally dared to want. This chapter of the epic has come to an end, but remember, what you've just heard is not a record of facts, but the echo of a myth, a story born from the imagination of the ancients, etched into the long memory of humankind. If this tale stirred something in you, if it opened a door to reflection or wonder, don't forget to support the channel and share the journey with those you love. And in the comments, tell us, which moment in this chapter struck you the most and why? We'll meet again in the next chapter of this audio odyssey through time. Until then, farewell.